I'm out here in my greenhouse, and today I'm going to be starting the first seeds of the 2024 garden. I'm going to be starting my onions and my celery today, and I really encourage people to grow onions in their gardens, so I was just going to share a little bit about my process and also a little bit about the benefits of growing onions for both you and your garden. So we're about 13 weeks to our average last frost date. Onions can be started anywhere from 12 to 14 weeks, again, depending on how much space you have inside, your setup, etc., etc. So here at 13 weeks, I'm going to be starting my onions and celery. Now, when it comes to growing onions, a lot of times you start out with, and I did too, is growing onions from sets. Those little bulbs you buy in the grocery store. And those will work great. But what I learned was onions are a biennial. So they take 2 years for their growth cycle. First year, they'll grow the bulb, they overwinter. Second year, they'll use all that energy storage from the bulb to grow up into their seeds and produce their seeds, which is actually what I did last year if you watched my videos. These are those onion seeds that were in one of the front little garden beds, not the back ones. I have those too, but these were from an onion that I had stored through the winter, replanted it, and it grew me these seeds. So we're going to be starting these seeds to grow more onions this year. All that to say that by growing onions from seeds, you're going to be growing them in that first year cycle. So you're going to be able to maximize the bulb size, and they will also store a little bit well, because when you grow from sets, they will grow bulbs, but not as big as they could. And they also, because they're at the end of their life cycle, aren't really going to store as well. There are some places that will sell onion starts or onion seedlings in the greenhouses in the spring to check out. But really, onions are great. They don't take up a lot of space. Like, all of this whole tray is going to grow me maybe 1,000 onions. I don't know. I'm going to plant a lot of onions in here. Another benefit of growing things from seeds is that you get to have a lot more of a variety. So I have 6 different types of onions I'm going to grow here. Another note when buying onion seeds is that there are such things as short day or long day onions. So basically, that's just what it requires to bulb up. Because I'm here in the North Canada, we want to buy those long day onions because we have long days. If you're in the south, you pick the short days. And again, some packets will say that, and some you'll have to go and look online. Now, onions take a long time, 110 days. That's why we're starting them early. We're going to be able to grow them. We're going to give them haircuts and trim them down. And then we're going to be able to plant them out before our last frost date, which is always nice because that gives me more room for my peppers and tomatoes and such in there. Not that they take up a lot of space, as you'll see. So we'll start with these ruby reds. Sometimes if you open them, you'll get little, kind of stuck to the top. It's no problem. I'm just going to sprinkle them. Now, I like to do what you call multi-sow, so I'm just going to kind of put them all around here. I'll probably put about 15 per little container here. Again, not counting, just sprinkling. Knowing me, it's probably more like 20 or 30. You can sow them fairly thickly, but I have had problems in the past with them being a little too thick, and then you get problems. Like, I had problems with the middles dampening off, so they didn't dry out as much in the middle. The edges were drying out quicker, and that kind of prevented them all from growing very well. And there's still a lot of seeds in here. There's 250 seeds total. I don't need to plant them all. Onions don't keep as long as other seeds, but they'll still keep, and we'll plant them again next year. So those ones were the ruby red onion. And next I'm going to put in these Utah yellow sweet Spanish onion. Now, I love growing onions in my garden because, one, they don't take up a lot of space. They grow pretty vertical, which is always nice as opposed to the sprawling plants. Two, they're great companion plants. You can grow them around things. I grew them around my brassicas one year, my cabbages and stuff, and I did not have as bad of a problem with those cabbage moths. And it was funny, I actually watched the moths kind of fly, and it says they mask the scent. And it's true, because they would fly and they'd get to the cabbage, but then they'd smell the onion and they'd fly away. So there is some truth to that companion planting. I did plant them a little bit too close to my cabbages, so they kind of got a little bit, sorry, I'm having FOMO, like, should I plant a few more? Should I plant a few more? No, I'm going to hold back this year. But anyway, so as long as you space those, put the onions this year, I'm going to plant them again, but I'm actually just going to, a little bit to the outside of each row, I'm going to put a whole row, this is my plan, of onions all down the sides of them, of my cabbages, so that hopefully those cabbage moths will stay away. I still am probably going to have to cover them. So next I'm going to do, these are a Bornatana, kind of like a little flat one. These are from last year. I don't have a whole lot, so I'm going to do the whole package just because the germination might not be as good. Okay, and then next we're doing, these are just a white sweet Spanish. It's always nice just to have the mixture of the whites, the yellows, and the purples. Now, onions are also a great thing to grow in your garden because they're super healthy for you. Onions have a lot of properties in them. I like to grow the onions so I can do my fire ciders, and they store really well all winter. They're a great storage crop because you don't have to do a lot to them. You can just pretty much, once you cure them, you get the storage onions, the ones meant for storing, and they'll last. Really, when stored properly, they will last all the way through the winter until your next season. And then we have these Celery, which are a large onion. These are the ones I grew last year, and even though they got trampled and didn't do super well, they did all right for what they could do, I guess. So I don't think there's many seeds left in here. No, not at all. So I'm just going to put these all into one container right here. And also, before I get too ahead of myself, I should probably be labeling these. I have my pen here. I have all these from last year. And actually, if you use like a rubbing alcohol or like hand sanitizer, that will get this off. I just have not done it yet this year. Okay, and then I'm also going to start these ones. So these are the onions that I saved from last year. It's always fun starting your own seeds. This is the lazy way of saving seeds. You just grab the whole thing and just put it in there. It works. And then right now, then they're all dry and everything, so I could just kind of bust them up. And then what I like to do is just grab a little tray. And then I'm just able to sprinkle them like this. I don't mind if I get a little bit of that plant debris in with the seeds because it's just going to break down. It's just organic matter. And I'm going to start the last 5 of these. I'm going to start with these ones because I really want to have a lot of these onions to hopefully last me to get through the next, to continue the cycle of saving my own onion seeds. Normally the biennials will be a little harder to save because they got to stay there for 2 years. But with things like onions, you can go ahead, pick them up, store them over the winter, and then plant them again. I have not tried to leave an onion in the ground over winter here. I'm not sure if I can do that in zone 3. I mean, it'd be a fun experiment. Maybe I'll have to try that here next year. But then again, you're thinking where you're going to plant that, and it's going to be there for 2 whole years. It is crazy how many onions you get off of one plant because I just put so many seeds in there. I'm doing exactly what I say don't do. Don't plant too many seeds per tray per little container, but I mean, I can always thin them. I can always separate them. I don't know really how good that the germination is going to be on my own seeds. So this is me reasoning with myself here. And hopefully if there's too much in there, I can always just separate them. We'll go with that. I don't think there's going to be too many. Is there any such thing as too many seeds? Yes, there's such thing as too many seeds. Okay. Still, I want to just plant more though. So now that I've just sprinkled the seeds on top, what I'll do is I'll come in with a little more soil and just kind of put that on top. Sprinkle it on top, just make sure all those seeds are covered. And this is that pre-moistened soil, so it's pretty damp. But what I will do is once everything's covered is I'm gonna go ahead and get my spray bottle and spray them all so that it saturates it in. And that is gonna assure me that those seeds are gonna get that proper moisture to start the germination. It's just something I've always kind of done. It's always worked for me. Gentle pat down. And there we go, the first seeds. Onions of 2024. Okay, now we need another tray. It's always fun deciding what you're going to start your seeds in. You have an assortment of trays. Smaller. There we go. These ones should work. Fill them up. Looking for editing. We can edit this all out. Now these are those other onions. So they're more like of a green onion that I saved from that back bed by the beans last year. So I'm going to go ahead and plant these in this tray. Again, I don't need as many of them, so I'm just going to plant maybe like 5 or 6 in each of these. And again, this is how I save seeds. Just dry the whole head off and throw it in there. I like to try to make sure that I spread them out. Like I don't want all of the seeds right in the middle. I give them that nice little sprinkle. When my kids help me, I always like to tell them, like, it's like you're sprinkling salt. You know, you take a pinch of salt and you sprinkle it. It's like you're sprinkling salt. Salting the seeds. And then again, you can see from one little flower, I still have a ton of seeds in there. I'm going to store them. Hopefully they grow next year. And again, I'll just keep saving them every year. So if you can save your seeds every year, you have a perpetual supply of free seeds. I have these Apache scallions that I grew last year. Again, they're like kind of a green onion. They get a little tiny bulb at the bottom. We just really like onions a lot. Anything in that allium family, like garlic as well. They just have a lot of beneficial things for you, and they also don't take up a lot of space in the garden. Those evergreen ones, they come back every year, so I technically don't really have to start them. Once I get a big enough patch established, I won't even have to start them. I can just cut them down every year, maybe let one go to seed and just fall, and they'll self-seed themselves right in that spot. The raised bed's probably not the best spot for that. I'm gonna try to find a few more spots this year of things I can do more perennial style gardening. And I also have some chives, again, that I've saved. I get them coming back every year. I just don't have enough established yet. These weren't actually labeled, but I'm like, I'm sure I have chives somewhere. So I dug through, and yes, I did find them in an unlabeled bag. They don't really have any of a smell, but I could just tell from the look of the flowers and the size and look of the seeds that they were the chives. I also have some more winter onions that I bought last year. I started them up by my roses in that perennial garden. So we'll start a few more of those. I'm not sure how they're going to do over the winter. We had a really weird weather, super warm. Then we got that super cold polar vortex. And now it's super warm again. It's only about 0 outside, but it's, I think, plus 20 in here. Very warm. So even though this isn't a heated greenhouse, I can't really grow stuff in it super early. It's really nice. So in the middle of February, come out and sit in 20-degree weather in my t-shirt and plant some seeds. It also is a great place to hoard all my gardening things. Okay, so next we're going to start some celery. Again, celery takes a long time to mature, as well as a long time to germinate and grow. This year, I'm going to grow the same tall Utah celery. Grown this for a few years. It's okay. I get a lot of bugs in it. I'm going to try something else this year to not get the bugs in it. And then I also got this pink plume celery just to try another unique variety, add some color to the garden, and it's fun growing neat things. I've not really done the multi-sowing for the celery. I'm just going to put a few seeds in each. We don't need a lot of celery, so I'm just going to go with the 6 of this and then the 6 of the pink plume. And I'm going to put a few seeds in just in case some don't germinate. I mean, if they're really little seedlings, you could probably just very gently kind of like prick them out, they say, and plant them in another location, which we'll see. We'll see how they germinate and come up. These are from that MI Gardener haul I got in the fall. It was too late to start them last year, but they're still going to be plenty good to go this year. The nice thing about celery too is that even if the stalks aren't super nice, the leaves, I've got a whole jar full of leaves, celery leaves, that I just flavor in everything. You can make your own celery salt. I just throw the dried leaves in like soups and stews and stuff to give it that celery flavor. If anything, maybe you could use it as a trap crop for those aphids, because they certainly loved the celery last year. Again, just kind of top up each cell here. So this year, my focus, I'm going to try to actually do a couple of different things. I want to focus on storage crops, and then separately from that, I'm going to have my eating garden. So things like all my onions, my storage crops, I'm really going to focus on quantity for those. And then for things like my celery, things I'm not going to store as much of, maybe a little bit, I'm not going to worry about trying to grow 100 of those plants. Then I can really maximize what I'm going to be able to put out to store for next year. I know it's always weird thinking about storing for next year and we're only in February, but with gardening, it definitely, I mean, you live seasonally. You want to live in the now and in the season, but you also need to learn to prepare, because again, what I'm planting now is going to be food for next winter. Dirty hands, I love that. So there we go. The first seeds of 2024 have been planted. I'm just going to go and take these inside to my little greenhouse I grew in last spring and spray them down. And I've got a whole list of all the seeds I'm going to be planting every week, and I'm going to do a video every week with what seeds I'm starting this year. So go ahead and subscribe to follow along. Next week, I'll give you a hint. It's going to be a lot of herbs and perennial flowers. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.